Hey, what's up everyone? Adam here with brahwegotthis, and today I'm going to go over the best DPS sets for Magicka, from the easiest ones to use to the hardest ones or more advanced, because a lot of beginner players and players in general don't realize that some sets are effectively useless if you can't use them correctly. So let's help you understand ESO sets a little better. Before we get started, I do want to mention that if you want to watch me play live, I stream on twitch.tv/brahwegotthis at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. You can also join our vast community on the Discord, the Brahfia, or our two guilds. The links to the Discord and the Twitch channel are in the description. Also, if you like this content, make sure to like, subscribe, heavy attack that bell icon to know when videos are released, new guides are out, and more giveaways. And if you want to join my newly launched Patreon, you can check out the perks there, like early access to videos and vlogs and Q&As, things like that, and much, much more. You can check that out in the description as well. And lastly, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram to stay up to date as well with the channel. So if you're a new player or even an experienced player, you probably noticed that there are a few sets in the game that you keep hearing about or that your build requires as a Magicka player as like the best, quote unquote meta setup. The issue is a lot of newer players in this game don't understand that some of these sets require a very high learning curve to use them effectively. And if you can't hit that learning curve, the set is basically not going to do much for you, and you would have a little more success using a set that might be easier to use until you can hit that learning curve. So I'll explain myself more here in a little bit when I go through the actual sets, but I do want to break down the different types of armor sets to help you understand why some of them are harder to use versus the more beginner-friendly ones. And we will be doing the stamina version of the DPS sets. The video will be out later this week as well, because I didn't forget about you stamina DPS players, because I love stamina DPS as well. First, some sets have what I like to call static effects, where if you are using these sets, as long as you have the required pieces of armor on you, you're going to get that effect no matter what. You don't need to light attack a certain amount of times. It's a set bonus that is easier to utilize for beginners. An example of this type of set, in my opinion, is the Mother's Sorrow set. So if you look here, we've got the Mother's Sorrow set. Again, you just see it adds spell critical, spell critical, spell critical, and max Magicka. There's nothing you need to do to activate this set other than have it equipped and, basically do your rotation. Obviously, you can't just stand there and not do your rotation and light attack. You need to do that, but it's not something that requires you to necessarily move to a certain area or place something down. So that's the first type of set that you have. The second type of set is situational sets. These sets are used in optimal situations and certain builds. So the set that I want to give you an example of with this is Burning Spellweave, okay? This set's going to be used in specific builds. The reason is, if you look at the 5-piece bonus, it says when you deal flame or damage with the flame damage ability, you have 15% chance to apply Burning Cess effect and increase your spell damage, blah, 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 blah. If you're not using flame damage abilities, then this set shouldn't be on. So this is a situational set that is only effective if your character or class is using flame abilities. So keep that in mind. The last kind of set that I want to highlight before I go through my list is the more advanced sets, or sets that require you to perform an action either over an extended period of time or use an action a certain amount of times. Now what I mean by this is, let's take two sets, one being RELEQUEN and another being Sororias. So RELEQUEN requires you to keep your light attacks up every 5 seconds. If you aren't light or heavy attacking, the 5-piece bonus harmful wind stacks will disappear. And if you don't keep this set up at most times in your fight, it's basically not doing anything for you. This is a required action. So you see that it says your light and heavy attacks apply a stack of harmful winds to your target for 5 seconds. If you don't keep those light attacks and heavy attacks up, they will go away, and it's not optimal. Sororia's 5-piece set procs when you use a single target attack. You will get this ring of fire beneath you. If you stand in that ring, it grants you a boon that increases spell damage. If you leave that ring, though, or have to move around a lot, it will cause the boon to drop off eventually after 5 seconds. So, as you'll see right here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to do my Sororia's boon. This is Sororia's boon right there. If I stand outside of Sororia's boon, it goes away. As you see, it's about to leave, and there it goes. So with Sororia, you've got to pay attention to where you do this. So if you've got a boss that's going to be moving around a lot, or you proc it really far away from the boss, you need to make sure that you can stand in the circle. So this is more of an advanced set. As you can see, these two sets have a higher learning curve. If you don't perform that required action, then the set isn't going to be utilized as well, and it's going to need to be either replaced or you're going to have to practice more. Now we're going to go into the best DPS sets for Magicka. These sets I'm about to showcase are the 10 best sets for Magicka in my opinion. I think all of them are really good sets. However, some have better potential than others. That's why I'm going to rank them from the easiest to use to the hardest to use. I will explain why, again, these sets need to be swapped out if you can't use them properly. So, the first 4 sets that I'm going to cover for Magicka are all very easy to use because they are essentially static effects. You just need to use your abilities and you will utilize the set. So, Mother Sorrow is the first one. Again, this adds spell critical, spell critical, spell critical, and max Magicka. This set is actually considered one of the top 5 meta 5-piece sets for Magicka characters, and it's very easy to use. You don't need to think super hard on this one. Just do your rotation. You can get this set from farming Deshawn, world bosses, delves, dolmens, and questing. Julianos is the next one. This is in Hrothgar Zone. It's a craftable set. We also have it in our guild hall that I'm in currently, but this adds spell critical, max Magicka, spell critical, and spell damage. Again, this is a straightforward, easy to use, and gives great benefits kind of set for players that don't have Mother Sorrow or some trial sets yet. The next set is Spinner's Garments from the Overland of Malabator. This set can be farmed by doing overland activities there, like i.e. like world bosses, delves, dolmens, public dungeons, and questing, just like Hrothgar. And this adds max Magicka, spell damage, and spell penetration. This set is, again, a solid solo set or a set that you don't have to think to use. It just adds passive stats, basically, to your character. The last of these 4 sets is False Gods. This is our first trial set, and it's one of the easiest trial sets to use. So let me go ahead and find False Gods for you guys. If you look here, False Gods. So False Gods, it adds spell critical. Just like every other trial set, it'll add Minor Slayer at all times. It'll give you, then spell critical, add spell damage, and then it's a 5-piece set. Reduces the cost of your magic abilities by 8%. When an enemy you recently damaged dies, you restore 2,075 Magicka and gain major expedition for 8 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 30%. This set is not hard to use. You just have to kill things. You just have to damage things, basically. It's an amazing solo set, and it's a great meta set for a lot of Magicka builds, and so this set is actually one of the easiest ones to use. So like I said, easiest versus advanced doesn't make them necessarily better or worse. Some of the advanced ones are better than some of the easier ones, but some of the easier ones are better than some of the advanced ones. The next 3 sets are easy to use, but situational. So you need to make sure your build is getting its full potential out of it. The first one is one of my favorite in the game, and I already went over this a little bit, and that is Burning Spellweave. Again, this is based off if you have flame damage abilities, but this is an amazing set, and this is from the City of Ash 1 and 2 dungeons. You can farm it from that, but this is situational. If you have a class that's not using fire abilities, then this isn't going to be something you want to use. Next is Elfbane. Elfbane adds max Magicka, spell damage, and then it's 5-piece. It increases the duration of your flame damage over time abilities by 5 seconds. This effect does not work with beam or channeled effects. Okay, so this set you can receive from the VLASTRUS Elite Gear Vendor in Cyrodiil or from Rewards of the Worthy from PvP. This set, again, requires you to be using flame damage over time abilities, so make sure you have actual flame abilities. Now, this set used to work with the monster set Zon, but now it says it doesn't, although I heard that it still does. I don't really know about that. So this set, I think, is still pretty good, but it was better before the patch of Greymoor. The last of the situational sets is Stun's Favor. This is one of the first more challenging sets to use, but definitely situational. This adds weapon damage, spell damage, physical penetration, spell penetration, weapon damage, spell damage. When you deal damage to an enemy who is off balance, your physical and spell penetration is increased by 5312 for 10 seconds. That's pretty solid. Okay, so with this, as you see, in order to get the 5-piece bonus, you need to be dealing damage to an enemy that is off balance in order to get that spell pin to be increased. So if you aren't hitting your enemies while they're getting hit by, say, Wall of Elements with the Lightning Staff variant, because that's what makes enemies off balance. There's other ways, I think, to make enemies off balance, but that's one of the ways that I know of that can make enemies off balance is the Lightning Staff Destruction ability right here. So if you look in the tree, Destruction Staff, Elemental Blockade, if you use a Lightning Staff, it will cause them to be off balance. So you need to make sure that you are hitting them while they're off balance, because if not, the set is not being used well at all. So if you're forgetting to use that ability or no other person in your group is using it and you aren't taking advantage of it, then you need to use another set, in my opinion. You have to make sure you keep the off balance up or you won't be proccing the 5-piece bonus. The last 3 sets are the Magicka sets that I think are the hardest to utilize but have great potential if you use them well. And again, they aren't all for every single build, but they are good sets. The first one is Undaunted Infiltrator. Undaunted Infiltrator adds Max Magicka, Weapon Critical, and when you use an ability that costs Magicka, your light attacks deal an additional 774 damage, and heavy attacks deal an additional 1161 damage for 10 seconds. This is farmable in the Ark's Cornium dungeon. This is the easiest of the more advanced to use sets. When you first hear this or look at it, you might be like, Adam, that doesn't seem hard at all. Well, it isn't that bad, but the 5-piece bonus relies on you actually light attack weaving and heavy attacking. If you're doing half the weaving you should be doing between your skills, then this set, in my opinion, isn't being fully used and could be taken off for something like Mother Sorrow or False Gods. If you don't know what animation canceling or weaving is, though, check out my video in the description or at the top of the screen, and I'll show you how to do that. But again, if you can keep your light and heavy attacks up, this is a solid set. The next set is Infallible Mage. This is from farming any of the Craglorn-based trials. So Hellraw Citadel, Aetherian Archive, or Sanctum of Phidia. This adds Spell Critical, Minor Slayer again, Spell Damage, and Spell Critical, and then your heavy attacks deal an additional 903 damage. Enemies you damage with fully charged heavy attacks are afflicted with minor vulnerability for 10 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 8%. This set, if you aren't weaving heavy attacks in your rotation or doing heavy attacks at all, then you aren't debuffing targets from the 5-set bonus. This set can be situational, but it also can be a very solid set, like I said. But if you aren't heavy attacking enough, then you aren't fully benefiting from this set, which means you would need to take it off and put on an easier set to use until you are more comfortable with this one. The last Magicka set, and the one that I think is the most advanced to use, is Sororia's, and that is the one, again, that I showed you here earlier. But Sororia's it adds spell damage, you get the Minor Slayer again, you add Max Magicka, and then dealing direct damage with a single target attack creates a ring of fire beneath you for 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Standing in the ring grants you a stack of Sororia's Boon for 5 seconds. Each stack increases your spell damage by 30, 20 stacks max. So if you go out of the circle for 5 seconds, the boon will go away and you will lose your stacks. So this set is farmable from the Cloud Rest Trial in Somerset, and this has loads of potential of being amazing in my opinion, but you can't utilize the 5-piece bonus if you aren't in the circle. So if you can't utilize it, then take it off, because this set requires you to know where to strategically, proc this basically. Like, procking it is a chance, but if you damage an enemy that's really far away or something, you could proc it really far back, and it could cause you to lose some damage potential. Because think about this. This can occur every 10 seconds. So if you hit someone with a single target ability, but you aren't near the boss yet, you have to wait another 10 seconds for this ring to proc again, or stand far away and have the chance of it not hitting the target with your abilities. This would cause for a huge loss in DPS, like I just said. That's why with these sets, you all, my biggest tip for you to take away is that all 10 of these sets I just showed you, they are all very viable and good sets. That's why I'm putting them in the list. But some of them are just easier to use, and just because one is easier doesn't make it less good. Like I said, Mother Sorrow is one of the best in slot 5-piece sets for a lot of builds, but the takeaway is when you're a new player, first of all, you really shouldn't be worrying about your sets until CP 160. But when you get there, if you just copy and paste a build but have no idea what the sets you are using actually do, it doesn't benefit you. You need to learn your skills. You need to learn how they work together, your passives, all of that good stuff. So I'm trying to show you that if you can't utilize these advanced sets, you need to take them off and practice and use something else until you're able to. because you're just not going to be fully optimizing your DPS if you aren't using them right. But that's my top DPS sets for Magicka, from the easiest to use to the most advanced to use. Again, make sure you're paying attention to your sets as a newer player, because when you hit CP 160, some of them just aren't going to perform as good as you think if you aren't utilizing them properly. If you like this though, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and heavy attack that bell icon to stay up to date on all my releases and giveaways. And you can stay tuned for the stamina DPS version that will be out later this week, and eventually the healer and tank set versions as well that will be out later in a couple weeks. And if you want to watch me play live, come and check it out at twitch.tv/brahwegotthis on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can join our Discord and the 2 guilds. The Discord and the Twitch channel are in the description below. And lastly, again, make sure to check out our newly launched Patreon to see if you're interested in some cool perks like early access to videos, vlogs, and much more. And I want to go and give a shout out to my patrons now. Lloyd Johnson, thank you. HBC, thank you. Man of War, thank you. HVK Reaper, thank you. A Quit, thank you. Jayhawk, thank you. And Robert Aaron, thank you. Thank you all again. And remember, everyone, have faith, be great, and I'll see you on ESO.